Mainly clear tonight, low 49. Sunny tomorrow, the high 69. Breezy and warm for Thursday, intervals of clouds and sun, the high at 74. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
Nice right now. Sun is up along the lakefront. It's beautiful. 47 at O'Hare, 52 along that lakefront. Your next news update, 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by The Mortgage Update with Dan Frio. Every Saturday morning at 7 on AM 560, The Answer.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Some sad news on the love front. And you know what a silly heart I am. Hopeless romantic.
You are. I was just going to say that.
Yeah, thank you.
Harlequin romance novels. It's what you do. It's who you are, Dan.
Representative Ilhan Omar filed for divorce on Friday.
Oh, now you've gone there.
Yeah.
How's the homewrecker doing? Because she's already split up another marriage.
No word on whether or not her brother is still available. Yeah, she just has a lot of love to give, and it really can't be confined to a single marriage, apparently.
Well, she's been recently linked to her.
Tim Minette.
Tim Minette.
Yeah.
What exactly is his job title?
He's
besides lover boy?
Campaign consultant.
Oh, that's right.
Linked with the help of Tim Minette's wife, who's also filed for divorce, who said that her soon-to-be ex-husband told her that he was having an affair with Ilhan Omar, so that was the linkage.
Right, that's the reason for the breakup.
Pretty substantial.
Another reason why Dan Proft is single.
Yeah.
But yes, he told his wife that he's divorcing her. He loves Ilhan Omar, and that love cannot be stopped, and it won't be.
I hate to see the Socialist Spice Girls awash in personal challenges. First, you have AOC at that town hall last week. And now Ilhan Omar. Speaking of that town hall, you know, the Eat the Babies moment there.
Yeah, I wish she had a T-shirt on, too, that said, save the planet, eat the children, and then morphed into eat the babies.
Remember, I mentioned that AOC is like 15 degrees turn from that individual, whether it was a hoax and a plant or not. The response that AOC provided was instructive. She took it seriously.
No, she did. And she didn't do the adult thing and say, we're not planning on eating children or babies. That's not what climate change is about.
She
just let it go.
Well, she didn't let it go. She responded, I get the concern. And, you know, we have to have a sense of urgency. We have more than a couple months, though. We have a couple of years. So that's what I said. They're on the same path. Just the Eat the Babies person was a little bit ahead of her. But just to remind people, the Bernie Sanders town hall in CNN, this was not a plant, and nobody argues that it was. An actual teacher questioning Bernie Sanders about climate change and abortion and linking the two. How ridiculous was that moment with AOC's town hall? Was it any more ridiculous than this?
Human population growth has more than doubled in the past 50 years. The planet cannot sustain this growth. I realize this is a poisonous topic for politicians, but it's crucial to face. Empowering women and educating everyone on the need to curb population growth seems a reasonable campaign to enact. Would you be courageous enough to discuss this issue and make it a key feature of a plan to address climate catastrophe?
Well, Martha, the answer is yes. And the answer has everything to do with the fact that women in the United States of America, by the way, have a right to control their own bodies and make reproductive decisions. And the Mexico City Agreement, which denies American aid to those organizations around the world that allow women to have abortions or even get involved in birth control, to me is totally absurd. So I think, especially in poor countries around the world, where women do not necessarily want to have large numbers of babies, and where they can have the opportunity through birth control to control the number of kids they have, something I very, very strongly support.
So he wants to promote abortion the world over for climate change. So, and we're
especially in poorer nations where women
well, right,
yeah,
that's what that's the Gates Foundation. Melinda Gates is a proponent of that ghoulish policy too. We're going to tell Nigerians how many children they should have, and we're going to encourage them to. In many African nations, by the way, violate their constitutions. Constitutions like in Kenya have pro-life language in their constitutions. The sanctity of human life is protected in the constitutions of some of those countries that Bernie Sanders and his ghoulish friends would like to change culturally through the incentives provided by U.S. dollars. So we're supposed to take that Bernie Sanders exchange with that teacher seriously, like, oh, this is an interesting public policy discussion. And we're supposed to laugh off the AOC town hall as, oh, that was staged and it was a stooge, and so who cares?
I think about her response to that other person rather than what that person was doing.
Absolutely. And juxtapose the two and tell me where you think the left is on this issue, particularly, as we talked about a little bit earlier, with the Supreme Court taking up abortion with the Louisiana law in particular. For more on this topic and others, we're pleased to be joined by John Nolte, editor-at-large of Breitbart, Breitbart.com. John, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
So the climate politics here. There was a protest in Chicago last night, and a friend of mine is making his way across town to.
Oh yeah, good luck with that climate change protest.
A friend of mine making his way across town to our poker game, and he's walking by a police officer. Says, "So, what's this thing about?" And the police officer says, "Environment." Yeah,
I mean, they're gonna blow up Globe too, and they're just passing it around, and they jam up these major intersections, and there's only 150 of them, so I'd say arrest them and get them out of the way.
How do you think the Democrats are doing making saving the planet their value proposition in 2020?
They are completely playing into Trump's hands. It's just fascinating to watch how, I like Trump. I support him. I hope he wins a second term, but you have to look at the lay of the land, what it is. He's never, his approval ratings never get over the mid-40s. Even if the economy holds, unlike most presidents in a good economy, he's vulnerable because the media's done a pretty good job of just blasting him and keeping his approval ratings low, even though he's done a good job as president. So you got a vulnerable president, and you got a Democrat Party that's too stupid to take advantage of that by being a little more moderate. And instead, Trump has managed to turn them into these crazed leftists who are going to take away our barbecue grills and our airplanes and our cows and our beef, and they're playing right into his hands. I mean, it looks to me, if I had to guess, that Joe Biden is flaming out right now. I think the whole Ukraine hoax is backfiring, and it's hurting him a whole lot more than it's hurting Trump. So Warren is probably going to surge into first place, and we'll see if she can hold on to it. But if they lose Biden, they lose their best shot at defeating him, and it's going to be some crazed leftist who goes up against the president who could probably be beat in 2020.
And I don't even know if Senator Warren can hold her own, because we're learning, this morning that she published in a book in 2014, she said that she insinuated that she was shown the door as a teacher because she was pregnant, and that's turned out not to be true.
Yeah, and the biggest problem with Warren, it's really, in my view, it's not scandals that destroy presidential candidates and presidents. It's how they handle them. And Trump remains strong. You can't hit that guy with anything, and he remains strong. And that's why he was able to survive even the Access Hollywood tape, which would have turned Mitt Romney into a melting pile of tears. But the problem with Warren is that she's a total neurotic. And she's not going to be able to handle the spotlight very well. And now that she's essentially the front runner, or the co-front runner, the spotlight's going to go on her, and we're going to see if she's going to be able to handle a scandal in a way that people want their presidents to be able to handle tough times. And if you look at how she handled the DNA scandal she was a mess. That was a total disaster for her. So yeah, I agree with you. I'm not sure. She's definitely the front runner right now, but I don't know how long she's going to be able to hold on to it.
It's also just you get to a critical mass point with sort of the repeated instances of fabulism, like Brian Williams style. First, she's Tom Joad from the Dust Bowl, and then she's Pocahontas, pretending to be Native American for personal advancement. And now this story about she's also a victim who's overcome the odds, like so many of you, being fired as a teacher for being pregnant back in the bad old days of the patriarchy, when that story is not true as well. So it becomes a bit pathological, just like Joe Biden is being tabbed with being pathological, rightly so, for sort of his general creepiness.
Yeah, and the issue with his son and all the money his son made.
Of course.
But I think, a candidate, look at Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton survived scandals after scandal, where they called them bimbo eruptions, because he handled them well. And I don't think the American people, unless it's something horrific, I don't think they really care about scandals as much as the media do. I just think they want to see, how do you handle it? Can you retain your composure? Can you stay on offense? Are you able to show us that you're competent? And that's why essentially Mitt Romney lost, because he just was always backpedaling and always on his heels. He just couldn't handle a scandal. And what we've seen from Elizabeth Warren, she can't. She just falls apart. So we'll see. It's same with Joe Biden. Joe Biden is handling this Ukraine thing terribly, mainly because he's hiding out. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I agree with you. It's one thing after another with her. She ran around for 30 years in red face, pretending to be something she was not, maybe taking a slot from an American Indian who could have gotten one of the positions she enjoyed. And I think that's going to be a big problem with the woke left once Trump makes hay out of it, and he's going to.
Yeah, speaking of the woke left, I mean, here's the other thing that is, I think, redounding to Trump's benefit. And that is all of these elites and all the tops of all of these sectors continue to expose themselves as the hypocrites and barbarians that they are. And now we have the NBA. So all of the pronouncements, taking the All-Star game out of Charlotte because North Carolina wants men to go to the bathroom in the men's room, and not using the term owner because that implies slavery, all of the Adam Silverisms. I loved him in Powder, but I don't particularly like him as China's Manchurian NBA commissioner. And this whole matter about, sacrificing the woke's values when it comes to human rights, the persecution of Muslim minorities in China, on the altar of the billions of dollars they reap from the decades of investment they've made in China. How do you square that circle if you're part of that rabid base of the Democrat Socialist Party?
Yeah, and no one sucks up to China. No one even comes close to sucking up to China more than Hollywood. That's the other thing that's fascinating about this is that you have the great movie industry, and I love movies and I love Hollywood, and it's totally in the pocket with China, and just to get in, because they want in that country, they want access to those theaters. China is very, very censorious. So many movies have been changed to satisfy China. And then you have big blockbusters like the disaster movie 2012, where they actually make the Chinese government the heroes. They're the ones who saved them.
Yes. And big tech in China too. Big tech in bed with China, helping them censor Hong Kong protesters, for example.
Yeah, and it's just remarkable that you see the backlash against the NBA, and I'm just, in my mind, I'm thinking, what if you guys have been watching Hollywood? They change their movies. They rewrite their movies. It's fine if you want to put a Chinese star in a movie because you want access to that, but they actually change the content of their movies, like the moral majority wanted them to in the 80s. And they're willing to do it just to get into these things. Hollywood has totally sold its soul. It's why we have these sort of generic, lame blockbusters, these superhero movies, because they don't want to put anything in those movies that's going to offend China. So you sort of get these bland, one bland superhero movie after another because there's nothing offensive in it. And this is worse than the production code in the 30s because filmmakers could work around the production code in the 30s. You could still talk about certain things. It was just the way that you had to present them. But China's production code and this politically correct production code, it's just destroying the art. And so hopefully the NBA thing will have some people focus on China or focus on Hollywood in China because that's an even bigger problem.
When it comes to the impeachment over Ukraine, do you see this going the way as of the education of Brett Kavanaugh? Since a lot of comparisons have been made between sort of the left strategy here, more whistleblowers, so we're going to make up in volume what we lack in substance in terms of the merit of the complaint. We'll just have more and more whistleblowers, so more and more witnesses, more and more accusers against Brett Kavanaugh. And then we find in Breitbart reporting that the education of Brett Kavanaugh, this book by the two New York Times reporters who were the source of controversy for a couple of days because of the way the book was excerpted, have a bomb on their hand, not a bombshell in a book, have a bomb. In other words, that book isn't selling. That story the left tried to tell about Brett Kavanaugh isn't selling, and I wonder if you think this is going to go in the same way.
Unless there's something bigger out there, I can't imagine that this is going to go anywhere. What I think happened, we now know that Adam Schiff knew about the whistleblower complaint beforehand, and even though he lied about knowing it beforehand, and I think he helped funnel that through, and he helped write it in a way that would create a blueprint for impeachment. I think he got the media on board, the CIA and the deep state bootlickers like Chuck Todd and Jake Tapper, and they figured out a plan. This is how we're going to roll it out, and we're going to get Trump impeached because we got him red-handed. But what they hadn't seen was the transcript of the call, and the transcript of the call is nothing. It's a nothing burger, and now they're pretending as though Trump is still refusing to release the transcript of the call, and that the transcript of the call has a bombshell in it and has him red-handed. And they're just proceeding as though that's the case. And what you said is exactly right. They're just trying to make enough noise to keep everybody's eye off the facts. And they're not going to be able to sustain that. I just don't think that that's what they're going to be able to do over the long term, especially with new media out there, talk radio out there. We're getting the truth out there. And now they want to hide the whistleblower from Republicans. And it just tells you there's a big problem with this whistleblower. And now the second whistleblower is coming out, the Julie Swetnick whistleblower.
Yes,
There's a desperation there.
Well,
do you think
the bench might be deep of different, whistleblowers.
Well, sure.
I calling up number 3.
I know we don't know, but do you think it's more likely than not that the original whistleblower is Christine Blasey Ford? John Nolte, editor-at-large, Breitbart, Breitbart.com. John, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
That's great. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper, hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
I'm Larry Nora, founder and CEO of You Store It, a network